Welcome, everybody. This is the first podcast starring Ahmed Shareef. My name is Eric Ransom. I'll be hosting this. The official title will be the Ahmed in Retrospect podcast, where we'll be talking just as two friends. We've been friends for a while. Ahmed has an incredible story that he desperately wants to tell, and it's one of the most improbable, incredible stories you'll ever hear, based on survival, based on perseverance, and it's about as inspiring as any story you'll hear. He's here today to talk about it, of which he's been on this earth for 25 years, and he's still going. And we've been friends since high school for about 6, 7, 8 years now. And what a perfect way to vent this kind of remarkable journey than in a podcast format. So without further ado, I'll introduce you to the man himself, the reason why we do this podcast, and he could give you some insight as to who he is and the reason why we're doing this podcast and why we're even doing it in the first place. And here he is now just to give you the lowdown on basically the easiest and most basic things about him. Ahmed, take it away.
Well, I definitely thank you for your kind words, Eric. It's a pleasure. I know you now for, I think, 2014, I remember. Great journey, I'll say, with you. How we met and how we got here to this place. Yes, my name is Ahmed Shareef. I'm from Iraq, so in Iraq we use 3 names. As first name is Ahmed. Well, we say Ahmed, so it's hard to pronounce Ahmed in the English alphabet. Jabbar is my father's name, and Shareef is my last name. So in America we use Ahmed Shareef, and as a middle initial we'll say Ahmed J. Shareef. Like Eric said, 25 years old. Does that matter if I say I'm a Gemini? I was born in June 9th. Okay, and basically I am blind and I have one arm. So this podcast, hosted by Eric, we decided to do this podcast by episodes. So each episode will have a story. I'll start from my childhood days and how I got here. And I'll give you everything what I went through. Good things, bad things, sad things, funny things, everything as we go. And this will come in every week, Eric, we said. And I'm happy to share my story with everybody.
So just to give everybody perspective, this podcast is going to be spaced out episode by episode, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes, maybe even an hour long each time, where Ahmed is going to go into detail starting from, I would say, right from birth all the way up to practically now, and it's just going to space itself out. And each episode is absolutely worth the listen. And of course, with each episode, we're going to get more and more in depth, and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of Ahmed's insane story, of which the probability of him being here is pretty low. He's a man who lives completely blind. He's a man who lives with half of one of his arms off, and yet he has persevered to learn how to play music. He plays about 140 instruments. He's
I don't know if there's 140.
all right, I'm exaggerating, more like 100, maybe 101.
Okay, thank you though.
And of course he's gone through school. He's amassed a lot of friends, and it all started.
And one of them.
Yeah. And it all started at a certain time, of which we will get to eventually, but we all have to start with a beginning.
Of course.
And
yeah, there's a beginning of a story and there's an ending. I don't know how the story's gonna end. Oh, we're not sure.
There needs to be a draw So the main question, the first big question I want to ask you, Ahmed, is why do people want to listen to this podcast every week? What is the spice of this podcast?
Well, basically, the goal, um, or actually my goal, and I'm sure your goal is, I'm gonna give you a picture, and whoever's listening, going to hear the story of what I went through from my country, Iraq, and I call it my second country, the US, and how I got here. And so basically, I want everybody to feel what I felt back then and how I feel now. What I feel now is the opposite of what I felt when I was young. The opposite, totally. Right now, I am positive, I'm strong, and the things that I went through made me who I am right now. So definitely, whoever's listening to this, moving forward, my goal is to basically to share the uh, I can't describe it really because I'm not sad about it really, but it's a reason for me to feel positive. So hopefully this podcast will inspire you. Hopefully this podcast will keep you strong, and hopefully this podcast make you understand the people who's living in other countries.
So just as a framework, just as a brief, like a synopsis, what has happened to you in your life that makes you and your story so unique? What were some of the few things that happened to you that people would love to hear and would intrigue them to listen to your story?
Okay, so I'm gonna start from the beginning, and you can if you feel any time to stop me, you're more than welcome. If I miss anything, so you know the story and how I got here. So, but you never heard what I went through when I was a child, and probably a lot of people don't know who knows me. So yeah, I was born in Baghdad in Iraq. I was born into a big family. Um, I have 5 sisters and 2 brothers, and my father was a truck driver, and my mother is a basically she was in the house, you know, all the time. So she's a woman who always worked hard to feed her children. She never had a job or anything. She just stayed in the house most of the time. So basically, I was born in 1996, and during 1996, back in Iraq, it was during obviously the Saddam era back in Iraq, and the country was different back then, of what I heard, and based on what I remembered, um, you know, Iraq was basically the strongest country in the Middle East of what I had because of Saddam. You know, Saddam was a dictator. Everybody should know that. He did good to the country and bad. The good part, I'll say, is that he kept the country safe. Education was free. He protected the country, but in his stupid decisions, he had a strong character, and he basically won with wars. You know, Iran war, Kuwait war, and he had to face the United States. Okay, so he had a strong character. So moving to that, Saddam was he was the main leader of the whole country. Everybody was scared of him. Everybody who would tell him, tell him no, they will kill him or kill his family or her family. So, for example, my father, he got drafted to the military, and if he said no back then, they would have killed him. Saddam people,
Hmm.
his army. So my father was drafted into the military. So he was a truck driver, delivering supplies and food and everything like that to the military bases and all that. So, and basically a lot of my uncles. So basically, they can come and knock on your door and they say, "We need your son," or "We need you," and like that. And if they say no, you know what's gonna happen next.
Right.
They will kill you or kill your family. So that's what Saddam did. That's the bad part. Like he protected the country. Yes, he did. You know, he built hospitals. He built a lot of stuff. But you know, he was very strong. He doesn't care about anybody.
So you have a bit of a Saddam Hussein story yourself, don't you?
Yes, I'm gonna get to that. Yes.
Uh-huh.
So my mother told me when Saddam when he came to town or any town basically in all over Iraq, everybody in the house need to get out to cheer for him. So you'll see all these thousands of people cheering for him on the sidewalks, in the street, and he'd be basically his parade coming down the street, and he's waving and like that. So that's what he did. So I was 6 months old. My mother told me this story, and I couldn't believe it myself. She told me that one day Saddam came to our town in Iraq, Baghdad basically, and he was coming down our street, and everybody in the block, the whole neighborhood, left their house and were cheering for him and everything. The president is here. So I was sick. I had a fever and whatever. So my father came into the house. He said, "You have to get out. Don't get us in trouble. If they heard about you, you're here." She said, "What about Ahmed?" He told her, "Bring him with you." So my mother took me out because it was so crowded and it was so hot in the summer. She stood in a corner, like so nothing happened to me, whatever. My sisters and like that, and with my brothers and my father, all cheering. And Saddam, as he's passing our house or passing my mother, he saw that this woman, she's not cheering for him, and he has that ego about him, Saddam Hussein. So he waved, and my mother waved back. But he did not wave. He was so serious, he waved again, and my mother waved back. The parade stopped. His vehicle stopped. And he sent his guards to my mom, my mother. He told her, "Our president is calling for you to come to him. Why are you not coming?" She said, "Oh, my son is sick." Who is her son? Is me.
Mm-hmm.
She told the guards that my son is sick and it's too crowded and I don't want him to feel any worse or anything. So the guards told her, "Oh, come with us." So she turned to my father, and my father said, "Go." He's not gonna tell her no or anything. So my mother went to Saddam's vehicle and told her, "Why are you not waving back? Why are you not cheering for me? What's wrong with you?" She told him, "Mr. President, my son is sick, and it's too hot for him, and there's a lot of people around here." So he responded saying, Give me the baby." Who's the baby? It's me. Yeah. "Give me the baby." So my father he looked at my mother and he said, "Do it." So she gave him me, basically. and I started crying. So I said, "Oh, this baby's really sick. I can feel his forehead, just in case if she was lying. Look, this is how Saddam. He checked my temperature.
Right, right, right.
He put his hand on my forehead to check if I had a fever or not. Like, oh yeah, this baby is sick. So he called for his guards. Oh, take this woman, her baby, to the hospital and get her medicine, whatever. So my mother was, she started praying. Thank God, Alhamdulillah. That's how we say in Arabic. So that's basically the my Saddam story. When I was 6 months old.
Yeah. So in short, Ahmed was held as a baby by literally Saddam Hussein.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't believe it, but was a crazy memory I had. My mother told me, and this is the life that we lived in.
And that was just the beginning.
Saddam. This is just we lived through that time. Moving forward, I'll move forward ahead based on what I remember when I was 5 years old. 5 years old, I was, I think, between 2001 and 2002. I think 9/11 already happened here in the U.S. And I heard all over the news and things like that the World Trade Center here in the U.S. got hit by planes. It was all over the world, that news. And that was just a start of something that should never happen. Should it never happen? And you know what I'm talking about, Eric. So, basically, Saddam people and his military, it was just getting bad, basically. Saddam, he had that character, like I mentioned. He just want to fight. He doesn't want nobody in his country. And because the country was so wealthy with oil and everything like that, unfortunately, we went to a war. Everybody should know that 2003 war, American and Iraqi war. I remember that, actually. I saw that in the United States tanks driving down our street. If I remember when that's on my sight, big, like really big tanks, and you see the soldiers waving. A lot of people didn't like Saddam because of what he did to the people. So a lot of people said yes, and they were happy when the United States entered. Why they entered, nobody knew that back then. The story I heard now, or what we hear in news as the war ended and everything about the weapon and mass destruction. Eric, that. There was never anything like that happen, but I'm not gonna touch on politics. I'll focus on my story. So yeah, I remembered. I was 6, almost being 7 years old.
So at that time when you were, say, like 4 or 5 or 6, I think a lot of people are curious, considering that you have been blind since you're 7 years old, and of course we'll find out why soon enough. But there is a period of time, unlike some people who were born blind, like say Stevie Wonder, who did get to experience the life where they had sight. And considering that you had sight when you were 5 or 6, obviously there's portions of what you remember that may have faded or aren't as vivid as they once were, because as you get older it just slowly disappears, kind of like a dream.
Yes.
So what exactly do you still remember? What sights do you still remember? How well do you still remember colors, faces, people, buildings, the atmosphere around you?
Okay. So I'm going to share with you, I'm going to light this up a little bit. What I remember the best days of my childhood days is in the first grade. Okay? In the first grade, I did not like school at all. I was so scared. I had my two best friends, Ali and Sajad. They were my neighbors. And my main dream was to play in a professional soccer team, and my team was Barcelona. And I was playing soccer, and basically like in a field of cement, like concrete, like not even grass. We play like that. That was my major thing. And when they told me that you have to go to school, so I don't want to go. I don't want to do this. So I remember everything. So I'm gonna describe everything in my memory because I never forgot about those memories. So moving forward, I got to the first day of school. I still remember my teacher's face. Basically, I was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna play soccer no more, or whatever. This is school. I'm boring. I don't like it." And a little by little, it got better. Basically, in the first grade, I started to be a troublemaker. I created a group, Ali and Sajjad with me, to fight anybody gets in my way. Yeah, anybody gets in my way.
Oh,
So,
okay.
one story to tell you, I was walking down the street one day. I was walking down the street and I hear somebody calling my name. Ahmed, turn around, catch her. Like, who is that? Oh, I see a girl from our class running, and Ali's after her. I was like, oh, we got her. And then I ran after her. She started crying, and she went to our house. And then the next day I went to school. So let me describe our classroom. I remember that the classroom is not like these desks, but you can fit like two people together. And it has like 3 aisles. I would sit in the back because I'm always like trying to make fun of the teacher or trying to start any trouble.
That's where the
I always
troublemakers
sit
sit,
in the back.
always. Doesn't matter where you are in the
Yeah.
world.
Plus, I was trying to impress the girl I had a crush on.
Oh, of course.
A girl named Hanan. I still remember her face. Blonde hair, brown eyes.
Blonde hair.
Yeah, blonde.
Wow.
Yeah, we had some blonde. Yeah. Hanan was she was a daughter of a teacher in in our third graders back then in our school. She was her mom was a teacher there, and her daughter was in our class, Hanan. So, but let's talk about the other girl. Her name is Hora. So one day, and the next day after what happened, running after that girl. Next day in the middle of the lesson, and the teacher called me. He said, "Ahmed, get up and read what's on the board." I was like, "Okay." Some alphabets in Arabic. So I got up, and then I started reading. And who came to the room? The girl that we were chasing is also, her mother was a teacher too in our school. She is actually, but in a different class. So we have 2 girls. Their mothers are teachers, okay? Hanan and the other girl that we were chasing before. So I was reading, and the teacher came. The girl Hora that we were chasing after the day before. And I was reading, and she said, Miss Netta, yesterday 2 of your boys were running after my daughter, and she came crying. And the girl got up. Hora, she got up. She said, "Oh, this one who was reading." She pointed at me and this boy, Ali. And then the mother turned to ask me, "Why you were running after my daughter?" I said, "Miss, I don't know. I was walking and I was trying to blame it on Ali.
Oh,
I was walking and and then all of a sudden I didn't complete the sentence, and she slapped me."
Oh, shit.
Yeah, the school in Iraq, the teachers, they can slap you, they can hit you.
Oh, my God.
The teacher in our classroom, Miss Netta, she's our teacher. She took the stick and she hit Ali on his hand.
So Ali got the
Twice.
stick on the hand, but you got slapped right in the face.
And I got a slap. Yeah, that's basically. And I'm trying to stay strong, obviously, trying to impress the girl I like, and she's sitting in the first row. Great memories. So I'll tell
Yeah,
you,
right.
that was my crush. So one day, let's stay in the school because this is my best memory. You asked me where I remember. This is where I remember. I remember everything. One day, I uh, I left the school and I said I want to know where Hanan lives. I'm seriously thinking like I'm gonna get older. She's gonna be my sweet girl and I'm gonna marry her like that. It's just boys stuff, you know.
Right.
Children. She doesn't know that obviously. That I'm stalking her. So I stayed after school and waiting outside in the hot summer. Man, it's crazy. And I was waiting for her to come out with her mom. So she came out and then quiet like with distance walking behind her. Walking and I knew where her house was. Like, oh yeah, that's cool. Now I know where she lives. And then I took off to my house. And then later in the evening I came down to her block and I saw her. And then she was surprised, like, why this boy is here? And I said, like, she's saying, like in her mind, and I'm smiling, waving. She smiled back, like, oh yeah, that's cool. I love it, you know, I love it. We stayed like that with Hanan. Like, I go play with her, hide and seek. She smiles at me, smile at her. Good memories, man. And this is during the war, basically. We played soccer and we hear gun shootings and we hear bombs. We hear like that. We continue playing soccer. Like, hey, come on, people fighting. We don't care. We want to live. And I used to be the fastest player on the team.
I don't doubt like that.
Yeah, I used to be a very fast player. Yeah. So that's what happened. What I remember. I remember colors. I remember school. I still remember the house where she lived. If I had one, alright, I would go look for her.
Alright, and then just stand in a distance and just wave.
I guess.
Now, when it comes to colors, what was your favorite color back then?
I liked red because Hanan used to wear red a lot.
Of course. Mm-hmm. I mean, you take things for granted like that. But favorite colors, you know.
In general, I liked black though. I like black colors. Like you make you look, or you feel important, everything.
Yeah.
And things like that. So yeah, I stayed in the first grade. And then my father said, "Hey, let's move to a bigger house." I said, "No, Dad. I want to stay here. My friends are here. I developed everything here. I want to stay here." And my father said, "No, we have to move." I start crying. I'm gonna lose my best friends, Ali and Sajjad. I'm gonna lose Hanan. I'm gonna lose my school. And then we did move.
Wow.
And that was the worst decision. We moved to a different town. It's still in Baghdad, but we moved to a bigger house. And my life began to be miserable.
So I never knew that. Because as a result, that was like a crossroads where there was one life where if you didn't leave and you stayed in that house, and then there's this life where you moved to a different house. There's like one thing, one different life, and the current life based off of one big decision.
Big decision the father had to take when Saddam, when they captured Saddam, the country was in chaos. My father left the military. He started working in a manufacturing company. He drives a truck, and had a big family, so they decided to move to a bigger house.
Right, it makes sense.
So, but I lost everything. I went to a different town and I lost everything. I lost my best friends. Let me tell you what I lost. I lost my best friends, the two of them. I lost the team that I was playing soccer with. I lost the girl that I liked, my crush. People probably will laugh at me like, oh, he's just a boy and he's but I'm sure there's a lot of people in the world who married their childhood sweetheart. I'm sure. And because I still remember her face, I hope she's alive. I know Ali, my best friend, died, unfortunately, 2 years ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's what I heard. Um, I just wish the best for everybody. I mean, I left everybody behind me. We moved like only 15 minutes away, but as a little boy, what are you gonna do? I lost my school. I lost like my basically you taking a boy out of his comfort zone. I know the whole town. I know all the stores, my neighbors. It was just a fun time. That was the best memories of my life when I had my sight, to be honest. And we moved to this big house. It is a big house, but totally different life for me. I became that boy who used to be happy and having fun outside. I became a boy who sits behind the wall, behind behind the backyard, and just sits staring in the sky. Is about you feel like it was something about to happen for you, or happen to you. Sorry about that. So yeah, that's what happened, and we moved, but not yet. And then I graduated first grade. I moved to the second grade now because why we did move, because I finished first grade and I was like, oh, time's to move. So they moved it to a different school, all boys, wealthier, okay, wealthier school. The boys, I mean, not us. We were like decent family. Okay, my brothers were working, my father, just decent family. But you see these boys, I told you I created a group and I was very strong and like that, troublemaker, nobody scares me. Now I'm all alone by myself into this new school. I don't know anybody. Also, my father promised me to buy a bicycle for me. Ali had a bike, Sajjad had a bike, except for me. My father was like, oh, I will get it for you, I'll get it for you. It never happened when I graduated first grade. Anyway, what happened when we moved to this house, you see these dogs in this town, like laying around like that. So one day, I was walking, they got me to go to the store to get some things, like eggs and bread. My mother sent me, and I see this dog. I thought she was gonna attack me. It was a girl, actually. She never did. She just looked at me. Usually you'd be scared because they will attack, like street dogs. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I would be.
They will attack you. Yeah. So I saw and she never attacked me. So I looked at her. I still remember the color, brown dog. So I went to the store. I got some stuff, and I was like, okay, I see this dog. And then I went to get some things from my mom. I was like, Mom, do you have any things that you don't want to cook and stuff like that? She's like, what do you want to do with them? I was like, give me. I took some, like a piece of meat or some bones, and I went to the dog, back to the dog, and I gave her that. And then I did that for a few days. Now I lost all my best friend. Now the dog became my friend. Little by little.
Look at that.
Little by little, yeah. And I named her Tita.
Tita.
Yeah, that's the dog. So back to the school, second grade I started. Now the country is Saddam. They took him, they captured him. Country's chaos, no government, nothing. But people lived. And then I started to skip school.
Oh no.
Skipping school wasn't the best decision because my father used to hit me with a stick by not going to school. Nobody paid attention to me. And nobody basically had a big family, like I mentioned. My father used to hit me a lot by skipping school. So sometimes I take my book bag, and because I didn't like the school, like it used to beat me up sometimes. I didn't like the teacher. Everything was just different. I lost everything. I just became depressed. Imagine being 7 years old, depressed.
Mm.
And then, so I used to take my book bag and I go away from my house, not going to school, and I sit on like a big rock, watching people, watching. They had some construction close to our house. I sit and watch them, just to kill the time. I just look at them, how they built, and I look at the sky. I had that for a while. For a few weeks, I did that. Nobody know what I did. No friends, no nothing. And by the way, Eric, if you want to stop me, if you have any questions, you let me know. But I'm gonna keep going.
Well, I was actually curious. At that time, what do you remember about the houses that you were in, like your rooms specifically? Whichever room you remember more. What describe in details, like the things that were in your room, where things were, things that you did in there, and the rest of the house too.
Well, here's the thing. The first house going back, the first house was this 2 stories house. Okay, I used to sleep always next to my father. Like I never had a room. It's a big family. I used to sleep next to my dad always. And the girls had their rooms and stuff like that. I remember during the summer we don't have power. Okay, during the summer.
Wow.
And we used to take some mattresses and everything. We sleep on the roof because it was so hot. The generators, we turn them on, that you can just light up, lights, light the TV, some fan, but it's not enough. In 110 degrees or 115 degrees in Iraq, that would never happen.
Oh man.
So we used to sleep on top of the roof, even during the war and like that. Yeah.
Wow.
What are you gonna do? You get used to it. You adapt, of course. So you talk about rooms? No, different, completely different. And when let me take you back a little bit, back to the first grade. Also, one day I was walking home from school, and I saw 2 people dead in front of me. 2 people shot. Like imagine a 7-year-old boy see people dead in front of them.
I can't.
It would never happen here. One day also, that was during the war. During the war also, you hear a big bang like a bomb. Like you hear. I went straight up to the roof. I wasn't scared at all, and you see this big missile on top of my head, like about maybe 6 feet. You see it. You see a big, like red fire missile going, through, and you don't know where this missile is where it's going. I saw these things. I saw one time also, a guy, he was hiding behind a garbage. What do you call those? Dumpster.
Yep.
Hiding with the RPG. If anybody knows what RPGs, like
Oh
those
my
bazooka. Yeah, I saw it, and there were the military, like the United States tanks. They were driving, and then he shot the tank in front of me. I saw that. There's a lot of things I saw, obviously. Completely sad things, Yeah, so it was sad things. It was just crazy, but we got used to it, and we lived through it. I dare anybody will live through that. No power. You sleep on top of the roof. You don't know if your house is gonna get shot. You don't know if a bullet will come down and kill you. Nothing. I'll tell you another story. After one night, next morning, my mom sent me to go to get some sugar and some stuff from the store. And I was walking. A bullet. I saw it. Bullet hit our window.
Oh.
I was like a couple of feet from it. Yeah. If I moved a few steps, it would have got me. As though it hit our window. I picked it up. I picked up the bullet and I went back to my father. I was like, this is it. This is what happened. And I continued walking to get to the store. You lived through it. What do you need to do?
Yeah, that's what we call the banality of evil, where things become just so natural and you just get so used to it that evil becomes commonplace. It just becomes part of everyday life, and you don't even recognize it as evil anymore because after time, everyone just assimilates it as just a normal part of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, me thinking about it right now, it's like I smile, like, thank God that I'm alive, man. And a lot of people died. A lot of people I know died. People that I know very well, neighbors, friends. This is what a war zone country.
Well, that's what we take for granted here in the U.S.
Huh?
That's what we take for granted here in the U.S. That there are some places where wherever you turn and wherever you walk, it's a war zone. And sometimes the things we complain about here, in comparison to the things that people never complain about where you're from, would be unheard of here. Especially the story of sleeping on the roof. I never heard of that story before.
There's a lot of things, to cover. There's a lot of information to cover. Based on what I remember, I'll tell a story will shock you now. Also, there was a mall, an open market basically. Like, those market, like people line up on the street and then you go pick it up food and stuff like that. Yeah, open market. So my mother's like, oh, let's go get some watermelon. I might come with me. I was like, okay, let's go, Mom. And you gonna buy me some toy and whatever? She's like, yes, I'll get you something. Okay. And we went. This is still in the same town. We went and she's like, okay, let's go get your car, a remote car. I always wanted it. As a child, I wanted that. So she's like, oh, let's go look for it. And I looked for it. I was like, the guy. Like, oh, yeah, I want it for 3,000 dinars. 3,000 dinars is like $2, for a car, small car. She's like, okay, make it ready for us, and then we'll be back. We'll go into the, half a block from you. We'll come back for you. So, the guy told my mom, okay, no problem. So we went, and I was so happy. As we walking, I saw a boy, about 13-year-old boy. I was like, maybe we'll say 20 feet, 25 feet from me. I was next to my mom, and I saw him getting knocked to the... Nothing. You just see blood dripping from his head. Mom, look. You see a hole in his head. What happened? A bullet came down and killed him. 13-year-old, I saw him die in front of me. I saw him. The minute I saw him, nothing, talking and laughing next to his mom also, and his sister. He was walking and talking like that, and you see next minute he gets knocked down to the ground with a bullet in his head, and you see his mother and his sister crying. I was like, Mom, look at this. So we took off. I never got the car.
Wow.
And I was so scared. I was like, that could have been me. That could have been me. That could have been me.
You're right.
The 13-year-old boy, why? You see, this is what war do to innocent people.
Wow. I
When the
didn't know that
military
either.
come down, yeah, yeah. Well, there's a lot of stuff, Eric, that people don't know and people don't realize that people in other countries what they live through, and we here complaining about that little things. Anyway, I don't want to get to that. Um, when the military come down our streets, they wave and throw cookies to the children because when the military comes, they throw some candy like that. I'm gonna tell you something. I don't know if I told you this. Every time I, especially I'm a very fast runner. I see them when they throw cookies like that. You see like a bunch of children just running and get the cookies, right? And candy.
Yeah.
That's the military, United States military. The American military, they throw them to the children.
Okay.
I ran, I think about 3 or 4 times. Every time it happened. One day, I never got one. Never. I was very fast. One day, I saw a box cookies. I ran. Oh, this is mine. Nobody's gonna get it. I looked left, right of me. Nobody. This is mine. I got close to the tank, very close. I picked it up. I'm trying to pick it up. A boy picked it up behind me. Picked it up and ran from it.
Oh,
Why? Why? And I think about it now. I was like, oh, where I am now.
right.
Do I need those cookies? Speaking only good mister. When the military come down the streets, we as children we stood and cheer for them. Good mister. Good mister. Didn't know a word of English. This is just for the listeners to catch their ears. From good mister and me now telling you my story in English. What happened? Oh, a lot of things happened.
Yeah, that's actually another good question that could come up. I'm curious as to, you've already gone into a little detail about it, but what was it like seeing the U.S. military around, and what were some of your experiences and your relationships with seeing U.S. soldiers and the dynamic that was going on over there, even at your young age? How was it?
Well, the U.S. soldiers were obviously very, they could, it should be. It's very serious. If they see you have even the smallest weapon, they would not care. They think it's a threat. They will shoot you, no matter who you are. A lot of people died because of the crossfire. Two sides fighting. First the Saddam people, and then after that, Al Qaeda came, which is it was Al Qaeda created by old Saddam people, and he created that the problem between dividing the country between Sunni and Shia. That was never existed before.
So, who were you most
Shia
afraid of?
The Shia calls the Sunni, Sunni calls the Shia. It divided it because Saddam was Sunni, and then the Shia was like, oh, we don't want Sunni. It divided the country. So seeing the military, seeing the tanks, and seeing how they look at you, and they see you like that, they were very, very, very cautious. I told you, I'll get very close to them, close to they call them the Humvees, the trucks, the tanks. I get very close. I wasn't scared, but when they talk, I don't understand nothing back then. They obviously don't want to kill innocent people, but innocent people get in the way of fire. My neighbor got killed, a little girl, because she was crossing the street and she got shot. Unfortunately, the American soldier was shooting the other side because they were shooting at him, and then he got the girl, our neighbor. Yep. Very sad. Very sad. Why they were there, what they were doing there, nobody knows.
So at the time, between the U.S. military and Al Qaeda and all the conflict, who were you most afraid of at that age?
Well, for me and a lot of people, like I mentioned, they were used to everything, so they were not afraid. Al Qaeda, he's there with how they kill. If you support the United States and if you want the United States to stay, they will cut your heads off. Okay? The United States, they were there not to protect the country. They were there for reasons. They did not care about the people in the country. Over a million people died. The United States military, they were not protecting the country. No. Yes, they took Saddam. Yes, like that, but they left the country in chaos. There were no Iraqi military. There was no police. There was no law. Nothing. So imagine that. And then Al Qaeda just came, and there was no law. So they were fighting each other, Sunni, Shia, and just like that. So basically, you were just afraid of getting killed. You don't know from where. Either you could get killed in the crossfire, you can get killed by Al Qaeda. You might get, your house might be destroyed by a missile, or you might get bombed. You don't know. You definitely. So people were just surviving. You're trying to survive, really, because the streets were full of IEDs and mines and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, we really don't have any of that kind of experience here because the United States is separated by water, and we have this sort of barrier of the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean that sort of sets us in an area where it's harder to invade. But the British would come over and everything. We get missile threats, and we've had a missile directed at us off the shores of Cuba, which is only about 90 miles away from Florida. That for about 2 weeks the United States was on pins and needles because it was a Russian missile that was planted in Cuba, and we thought the Russians were going to bomb us. And this was during the presidency of JFK. But for the most part, most of the wars that we've been involved in, we were either the perpetrators of, or we were the ones who got involved and went to the opposing countries. So we went to Vietnam, we went to Germany, Japan, and then Iraq and Afghanistan. And as warfare changes, it may turn less physical, and it might be cyber warfare. But you lived through a time where cyber warfare was in its early stages, and you got to see the brunt of what hand-to-hand, boots-on-the-ground combat looks like. And a lot of people who make these decisions to go to war, there's a terminology for them where they would want the war to happen, and they would gladly send people out to fight. But if someone said, would you fight personally, or would you want your son to fight personally, they'd say no. And they're called chicken hawks. And a lot of the times, wars like the ones that you witnessed are the result of people who make these decisions with a chicken hawk mentality, where they would never do it themselves, but they would gladly go to war if someone else were to do their dirty work for them, because that's how they make their money.
Well, looking about it now and studying why the United States invaded Iraq, To be honest, they left a country. I'm not talking because I'm from there. They just destroyed the country from everywhere. Education, hospitals. Yes, they left in 2011, but the country, look what happened. ISIS came. More people dead. Not safe. And talking about immigrants here in the United States, immigrants, we don't want immigrants. Well, you destroyed the country. You destroyed the country. Syria. All these countries. Why? Just because of oil? Just because this? Where? If Saddam, had weapon, what are they calling it? Weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah.
You would never capture him. But no, they knew it. No, I studied. When I was a child, I didn't know that. They knew it. There was no that, but they were reasons. And why these people, children, dead, women, dead, people, lives lost. Even I'm not talking about the soldiers. I'm talking about the government. The soldier there just serving their country. They've been sent to war. Go ahead, die. Wherever they're going to die. Iraqi people died, and American soldiers died. Why? Just because you made that decision? Because the government want that decision? Why? I don't want to get into politics, but because of these stupid decisions, you lose these countries. You just lose these countries. You lose people on both ends. I'm not just defending Iraqi people. No, I'm defending also the United States people, the soldiers. Like a lot of I remember their faces. The U.S. soldiers. They were young. They're like 20, 19, maybe just got out of high school. And you send them to war, fight. I don't know. It is what it is. This is just law and whatever. And you mentioned few wars like the Vietnam, the German, whatever, Afghanistan, Iraq. There's some mystery behind it. And a lot of people get killed. And I'm one of the, person who got affected by that war.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an example, exactly. So, we can move on with the story the next episode. And I stopped at me feeding Tita.
Right.
And looking at the sky. And a lot of things happen after that. So,
well,
then definitely, if you don't have any questions, Eric will definitely touch on that the next episode.
Well, despite the folly of a lot of powerful countries doing what they do, inherently, even though it was a negative situation, it created the story and this timeline of which incredible things happen to you, and this podcast is perfectly designed to tell it from beginning to end. And we hope that with this podcast, of course, that not only will new listeners, new to Ahmed, be able to hear this story, but just as equally, people who know Ahmed, who want to know more, have that opportunity now. And we're very, very thankful that we have the wherewithal to put this out there, because his story can be heard by millions, and it will surprise and wow a lot of people. So, as the podcast rolls along, we will also throw in possible donations. Our website makes it possible that donations can be accepted. We may also start a Patreon. So, if any one of you, even if just one of you, feels like they want to donate, or they want to help the cause, help the podcast out, it's greatly appreciated, no matter the amount. And moving forward, Ahmed will get deeper and deeper and get juicier and juicier stories that you do not want to miss. It's
Well, I definitely thank you for this is the first episode. I appreciate it. And I look forward to share more of my life moving forward.
absolutely, yeah.
So thank you, Eric.
Yeah, no problem. The next episode, of course, I believe we will get into the true beginning, the
Mm-hmm.
the first major reason why we're here today, discussing this story, and it's already been about how many years has it been? About 17 years.
Yep, 17 years. Yep.
So that'll be the next podcast, but for now, this will be the end of the first one. And we thank anybody who stopped by to listen, even if it was just for a few minutes, or if they stuck it out, were able to listen to the whole story. And until next time, for Ahmed Shareef, my name is Eric Ransom, and this was the first episode of the Ahmed in Retrospect podcast. We'll see you next time.